Today with us we have Royal Highness Mohammed Al-Faisal. He's the chairman of Saudi Telecommunication Company, and also he's the CEO of Al-Faisal Group. It's an honor to have you with us here.
Thank you very much, Isra. It's great to be here. I thank MISC for hosting me, and hopefully we'll have an interesting session.
Inshallah. So you have a quite impressive career, Your Excellency, Your Highness. Sorry, you have impressive career. Starting working in a private sector, then after that, you have been a chairman of a telecommunication company and also leading a group company. How do you think that leadership skills will differ from industries and also from leadership roles such as CEO versus chairman?
Well, there's no one right answer to this question. I think leadership role is a function of many things. First of all, it's a function of the person. It's a function of the timing. It's a function of fit. What stage is a company in? And it's a function of industry, different industries. And I've had a chance to work in a holding company, and I viewed different industries, and you see different cultures depending on sector, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in construction, whether you're in F&B, food and beverage, IT. It's almost like a whole different ecosystem that attracts a whole different set of people. So there is no one answer that fits all. Leadership is not something that you can actually define. It's something that you feel, I think, more than anything else.
And how do you think, like, the youth now, because as you know, that they are really empowering youth. How do you think that they could invest in themselves now to be ready for such responsibility or opportunities in the future?
I don't think you can really invent or prepare yourself to be a leader. It happens. The thing that you can do is start to put the building blocks. And the building blocks that you put into place that differ from person to person. But first of all, you learn, you observe. You'll have a lot of people around you that you can learn what to do from by seeing how they behave. You have even more people that you can learn what not to do. In my experience, you know, I've many a times counted the number of bosses that I've had, and I found that most of them I've learned what not to do from. You know, I watch the person and I say, you know what, I'm never going to do that. And so you begin to put things together. You read, but you also observe people in action. And the level of learning that people get from observing and watching people, how they act, and doing the simple thing of acting in the same way is probably one of the biggest learning experience, because you're actually seeing a real life leader in action, and you see how they behave, how they conduct themselves, how they carry themselves. And you see the effect, because usually that effect is on you and your colleagues. So you see real life action in terms of the behavior and the reaction that you get. So you have to be quite observant. And from that you begin to put the building blocks towards becoming a leader. And I have to warn, there is no guarantee. You can learn as much as you want, but you know, it happens or it doesn't.
Very well said, Your Highness, I agree. So in respect, coming to my next question, so do you think leadership is a skill you acquire or actually born with?
It's a bit of both. I think that there are skill sets that you can learn, but you know, it's not a box of tools that just work by itself. You observe leaders around you, how they act, like I said, and you learn from them. It's also a factor of timing. You know, some people get the opportunity and are able to act on it. And it's also a question of the right speed at which you rise in the organizations. Some people move in too fast and they can actually be overwhelmed. Some people move too slow, whether it's for their reason or other. They might be in the wrong organization that gives them the leadership opportunities. So all of these come together, to put it. There is part of it that gets learned, but there is also a big part of it that is about the opportunity presented and how you seize it. Again, if you're observant, if you learn by seeing what people do, if you're humble, the skill of what I would call self-awareness, which is important, knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are and knowing what roles need, because that's when you learn where you need to update yourself. Keeping your ego in check. This is probably the most difficult part, because it's easy to convince yourself that you're better than you really are. And I know I mentioned this once. I think there was a study that was done somewhere, I don't recall, which basically said that on average, the majority of people think that they are smarter than they really are. And I think they took something like 95%, and of that other 10% who are balanced in terms of what they think they are, probably half of those do not think that they are really smart, usually suffer from clinical grade depression. So the majority of us, myself included, at some point in time, overestimate our capacity. And I include myself in it. It's been an interesting experience when that happens.
I can imagine that. Your Highness, we go one step back to your education. So you graduate from Harvard Business School.
Yeah.
How do you think, with the changes now with the learning and education, how do you think that enhance your leadership and your role, and also how the value proposition of having an MBA, especially from an elite university for nowadays?
First of all, if I were to go back to get an MBA from Harvard Business School today, I would probably not be accepted, because the standards have gone so high. Second of all, the quality of students there, including the Saudi students, are far more higher. If I look when I first came into the job market, it was so much easier. If I were to apply now with my skill set that I had then, I would probably compete against the best, and my market will be much more tougher. Now you have a higher skill set, from what I see in Saudi Arabia, both men and women, but the competition for jobs is so much higher, which did not exist at my time. So, and that's how it should be. If I am able to get into the job market today with my skill set 30 years ago, we have a problem in Saudi Arabia, and we have a problem with the skill set that's there. It means that the country has not improved and has not elevated itself. But the quality of job entrance right now is really, really, really impressive. That's the first part of the question. Does an Ivy League MBA help you in your career? And my answer is, it opens the door, but it does not necessarily guarantee you that you succeed in that. I remember having a discussion with the CEO of one of our companies that, not STC related, that were going out and reaching out with co-op programs to various universities. And he was telling me, well, we've targeted the top tier universities in Saudi. And I said to him, you should not target top tier Saudi universities. You should target regional universities. You should target, other universities, because quality graduates will still graduate from, average universities, because they put in the effort. And you would probably have less competition on them in terms of the target. So if you are a disciplined and dedicated and driven student, you will get the education level regardless of the university that's there. I have seen Ivy League students, even from Harvard, who just believe because they went to such a school that they will automatically coast through their career. And I have seen top-notch Saudi students who have graduated from Saudi Arabia and have not gone to an international university or a Ivy League university, and they've reached the top in their profession and have become leaders. So I never judge where you came in from. It gives a good impression that you are able to work hard, but it is no guarantee that you will succeed. Because when you look at us as people, there are certain inflection points in your life whereby the rules of the game change, and your success at a certain stage does not guarantee that you succeed at the stage after that. And it happens largely in two places: when you finish school and you go to university, and when you finish university and you go to real life. When you go to school, since you were born, you have had one set of rules of the game, whereby you get to an end, you take exams and you get promoted. And you've done that from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. Then you go to university and you have to make choices. And when you make choices, the rules of the game change. And then you go into life. Again, the rules of the game change. What made you succeed in university do not necessarily make you succeed in real life. I have had experience personally, and I can say this. I talked to someone a few days ago, and I said to them, listen, everybody in high school that I've had, who were the cool kids in school, and who came up top of the grade, even on countrywide, Al Saudiya, not one of them succeeded in life. The people who came under the radar in high school ended up succeeding in college because the rules of the game changed. They were not adapt for what they had in high school, and they succeeded at a certain level. And the same thing happened in life when they moved from university into life. It does not guarantee that you succeed. So there are certain inflection points where the rules of the game change. And you have to be aware of that and understand that what brought you here is not necessarily that will make you succeed at a later level. And that's where leaders succeed, because leaders begin to realize, as an early job entrant, what made me succeed now is not necessarily going to work with me at middle level, and leadership requires a whole different set of skill sets. If you are not aware of that, that's the first step to becoming a good leader.
So can you share a life experience that significantly shaped your understanding of leadership and influence your leadership style today?
I think observing a lot of people. If I were to see what I've learned, I've had a lot of people who come in senior positions where I've watched and I've learned from what to do, what not to do. I can't say that there is a big aha moment, I think a lot of humbleness, a lot of self-awareness, which gets built up over time, really understanding where your weaknesses and strengths are. For example, I can say I jumped from having no subordinates to having so many subordinates in one step. And that's not the normal step. When I moved from Samba to Al-Faisal Group, I became vice president. In real life, that doesn't happen. It takes you 10 years to be able to reach that level. So I ended up being in places whereby I was clearly out of my league. And I worked with people who were under me who were far more qualified. So I learned to work through people out of necessity. And I built up that skill. And the same thing that happened when I came to STC. I did not come from a telecom sector. So out of necessity, I had to work through the people that I had. So you build up the skill that you end up working as a team because you get the best of it. Maybe I would not have had that experience had I not been in that position. I had no ego because I had no choice to have an ego. And that helped me a lot, when I became chairman of STC. The experience of working through others, specifically because, I was thrown into a position whereby under normal circumstances, through careers, it would take you 8 to 10 years, to reach it.
Speaking about STC and technology, we have seen that technology have changed our way of communicating. So what is the top 3 technology that changed your style of leadership?
Email, number 1. For young people who don't realize it, when I came back to Saudi, that did not exist. You don't remember dial-up. We had dial-up where we called Bahrain. It's either hooked or it didn't. You remember it better, huh? Yeah, you know it quite well, huh? We were on the same boat on this one, yeah. So that's number 1. I would probably say the web. Again, you don't remember. You remember Mosaic, huh? And then Netscape, huh? And then, we were on top of the world. And then mobiles, social media, not so much. More of a nuisance than anything else. But, everything is evolving. And I think today we have AI, Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Definitely AI changed our world completely.
It's still changing, so we'll see where that goes. So technology gets in there, you know, and you don't feel it, but you end up using it more and more. And eventually it creeps into your work, and you end up seeing yourself doing things that you never thought, how did you live, you know, without it?
Agree. So looking forward, what legacy do you aspire to leave through your leadership journeys, both professionally and also in terms of impact of a community?
I hope to get out of this with no damage done to myself and to others. I think that by itself is.
Legacy.
I don't think that leadership and legacy is something that you should. It's dangerous to put these into the same boat because, you know, I mean, legacy is a dangerous word. You know, people leave legacy after they die, and usually other people tell you about that. I hope, you know, at the end of the day, if I leave leadership positions and people say, you know, at least if he didn't do any benefit, he didn't do any harm. I think you would be lucky to be able to do that. So do no harm. I think this is it, you know. Have nothing bad said about you, at least for the long run, you know. That's probably the best thing that you can get out of it. But I think the word legacy is a very dangerous word to keep, you know, letting fly around in your mind.
I like do no harm. I will leave it to
Yeah.
it. So we'll leave the floor for questions. We have 5 minutes for questions. Or anyone want to ask anything? Start from here.
Basil, come on, man. Yani, I should be allowed to ask you questions if you ask me.
Abu Khalid, I asked you so many times about when will be the time for Al-Faisal Group to go public. But I would respect your views about keeping family business still private. Have you changed your mind? Have you seen the
No, my answer to your
dynamics?
question is never. And it's not because of possession. It doesn't make sense. Al-Faisaliya Group is a holding company which holds multiple assets, companies underneath it. It would probably invest in public companies as opposed to go public. If you are an investor, we don't need to do the portfolio management for you. There are part companies that we own that you like, and there are companies that you don't like. So the value of listing Al-Faisaliya as a holding company is not there for the investors. They can do their own portfolio diversification. They don't need to get into all the companies at Al-Faisaliya. So
But you can list each company individually.
yes,
Don't-
that's what we're doing. We've listed our healthcare company. We've invested in companies that we've helped to go public. But this is not an investor session, Bas. Okay, huh?
Another question? Yes, here.
I have a pretty vague question. I
I
was
love
wondering,
vague questions. because-
based on your expertise, your experience also, and your education too, and your career, where do you see the future is pivoting towards, and how can we as youth play a role in that?
That's a very vague question. Yes. Listen, anybody who pretends to predict the future is lying through their teeth. I'll take you through an example. We're sitting here today. Take yourself back 5 years ago. 2023, let's go back to 2018. Could you have predicted anything that has happened? Okay, let's go to 2018 and go back 5 years ago. Before that, 2013. Could you have predicted? I think the future is for resilience more than predictability. Anybody who tries to predict, I think the biggest joke in the world when somebody puts a 25-year strategic plan. You know that the first 3 years are the right ones, and the rest is an Excel, you know, exercise, you know, more than anything else. So the ability to predict is hubris, to say the least. And anybody who sits around and says to you, I can predict 5 years, the best you can do is maybe get it right 12 to 18 months. That's my opinion. So my honest answer to that question is I have no clue. But I just want to make sure is how much can we screw things up and still survive? That's the best thing. Resilience is the more important than being able to predict, because you make the assumption that whatever I'm going to do is probably going to be wrong. If I am wrong, how far could I be wrong and still survive? So my advice to you is, at least from a work environment, take that.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. So the next 12 months, where's the priority? Where's the hyper focus? And also in the geography, right? Because Saudi has a lot of focus to excel in different areas, right? I'm working in Saudi Arabia myself. But where are the geographical areas and what are the hyper focus areas for you for the next 12 months that you want to engage with others?
I think the next 12 months, geopolitics plays a big role, and that creates a lot of uncertainty. I think you have political elections that are coming out in the US, and that creates a big opportunity for what I call political buffoonery. You don't know what politicians will do to win a vote, and that puts short-termism, at the front line. We also have a lot of political turmoil in the area, and I think the sanctuary is probably the GCC. And if they can keep ourselves out of the geopolitical turmoil, at least to a large extent, then we create, a sanctuary for us to be able to continue with what we're doing. India, Southeast Asia is probably the right place. We see interest rates probably stabilizing the rest of the world. I don't think it's going to go down as fast as we see. Again, for geopolitics, we have what's happening in the Red Sea. We don't know what it does to the price of oil. We don't know what it does to supply chains. So that's something to watch for. I'm showing you what you should watch for, and these are the things that will make a difference. So how will regional geopolitics spill over to the GCC or not will determine a factor. How will geopolitics in the region affect interest rates and supply chain will make a big determinant of what happens to interest rates. And we'll see. Does that answer your question, or?
There's another question here.
My question briefly, how did you become a great decision maker? And what do you think the factors that youth should focus on to become great decision makers? I feel like this is one of the skills that we need to, or a select youth should focus on, because the higher
I'm
the
not
position,
sure
the
that
more
I'm a
important.
great decision maker. It's not for me to decide if I'm a great decision maker. I think the biggest danger is decision procrastination more than decision making. You know, you can always strive for perfection, and you have to balance between getting the perfect information to make a decision and missing the timing. You know, do I work with 70% information and hit the right time? Or do I wait for 100% information, but then the window has passed? And this is probably the judgment that you have to make. And you find a lot of people who are always refining their information, trying to get to the right time, the right information to make the perfect decision. But guess what? They've missed, you know, the window. And this brings us to the issue of what timing plays in people's lives. And Isra and I discussed it. You know, timing is interesting because I think there was a Nobel Prize economist who was asked once, what is it that you want to know? He says, I want to know how much does timing have an effect in success and failure? And so this is something that you always need to be self-aware of. You know, I mean, you maybe have succeeded in a decision, but is it you, or was it at the right time in the right place? You might have succeeded in an investment. You've seen a lot of cases of people who have hit something at the right time, and then they start to think that it is because of their brilliance, and they're probably smart, but timing helped in magnify whatever success you've had, and then they went and ran with their brilliance, and guess what? The next decisions basically destroyed everything they've done. So you need to time things right. You need to understand how much of your success has been because being in the right place in the right time, and how much of it is because of being smart. There are a lot of smart people that have not probably had the success that you might have because bad timing. So timing is important more than probably the quality of decision. But the third thing is that you're assuming that you have to make the decision all for you by yourself. You know, that's not the case. You know, you have to talk to people and then make an informed decision. Is much more important. But don't over talk. You know, you have to decide at one point in time.
Your Royal Highness, you said you went to Harvard Business School. A lot of the youth today, and particularly when I interviewed both here and when I was in Asia and back in Australia, youth still think they need to get a MBA. So from your career so far, do you believe you went to Harvard too early in your career, too late in your career, or right at the right time?
Probably, no. I mean, when I went there, I was the right age with the right work experience. I think the question is, does taking the things you do in an MBA, do they cover all real life facets? And the answer is no. It prepares you better. I mean, when you take an MBA, basically you're doing two things. You're taking real life experience and academia and then reorganizing it. So the people who do MBAs are usually people who make a switch in career, who are either engineering, science, who want to move into management, or who want to take a pause and sort of reorganize that experience that they've had and make much more sense of it and learn something new. You don't need to go for an MBA to do that. And I think there's a lot of argument today that says masters are not necessarily a guarantee of success. So that is probably, and there's a lot of questioning even in Ivy League schools. Are we teaching the right way? Things have changed. There's a lot of online learning. There's a lot of organizations that will not free up people. People will not go off work, you know, for 2 years and pay a lot to be able to do MBAs. How can we be relevant in this era? So that's a lot of questioning, and that's the right way to go about it. So my answer to you is, it's less about the right time. You don't want to do it too early because you don't learn. But it's not about the time, it's about the relevance. You should decide, is it important to you? And my answer before was, you know, it might open the door, but it's no guarantee that you will succeed when you go in.
Any other questions?
Maybe we can do a joint question. Thank you so much for your leadership lessons. I was reading a lot about your annual message from STC, and you also mentioned a new collaboration with Alibaba, and actually in terms of cloud. How do you see, from a telecom business perspective, cloud and AI becoming a more substantial part of your service delivery, value offering, and also new business development?
Oh, it's huge. If we take AI, first of all, AI is evolving. So, I mean, there are areas in AI that you can do right now with certainty. For example, back office, HR, audit, finance, etc. These are things that create efficiency. So these are things that you can do safely. There are things that you can do that are customer facing, like call centers, etc. And they give customer service and they assist people to be much more efficient. It's proven now that AI is the great equalizer, meaning that it helps with productivity, not by removing people out of work, but having your average employees with AI assisted actually raise their productivity level. Because there's a lot of things that were knowledge specific to higher level people that are now available to them. So AI is a big player in those areas to give you more productivity, more efficiency in terms of what you do. Cloud again is important because it reduces the infrastructure cost on a global level. I mean, it concentrates infrastructure cost in one place, but it really creates economics of scale because you have knowledge clusters in those, in cloud computing that does not require every organization, especially small to medium-sized businesses, to have to create that. And you know that the skill set is not available. So cloud is there, its efficiency, its speed, its security, especially with cybersecurity. And you probably see it not only at large organizations level, you see it at small organizations, small to medium business, who cannot afford to go out there and have the level of cybersecurity protection, have the services. So software as a service, banking as a service, telephony as a service is all going to be there. And it will actually, I don't like using buzzwords. It will democratize IT and make it available for, for everybody. Does that answer your question? Or?
So you're
thank you for reading the chairman's letter. Not many people do that, by the way.
Your Royal Highness, as you mentioned, we leave with no harm. Hopefully we leave this session with no harm. So thank you so much for being with us here in MISC, and thank you for valuable and insightful
thank you for
knowledge.
inviting me. Thank you for indulging me for this session. Thanks, Badr. We go back a long way. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.